Hello and welcome to day 2 of our Kingston tour. I hope you are a little bit curious. Today I'm going to show you the dark side of Kingston. Where tourists now stroll around comfortably, heavy prison doors once slammed shut. Kingston was once Canada's prison capital, home to an entire network of correctional institutions, from ordinary jails to maximum security facilities for people considered too dangerous to take any chances with. One of them has since changed careers and is now a museum. The story of Kingston Penitentiary began in 1835. There were big plans and even bigger walls. It became one of the oldest and longest operating maximum security prison in the world. For decades, silence was part of the punishment system. No talking during meals, no talking while working, no small talk. Many former inmates later said that the worst part was not the bars, it was the silence. In 1954, the first major riot took place. Around 900 inmates took part. Fires were started and significant damage was caused. It was only after prison staff, Canadian Army soldiers, and finally the Royal Canadian Mounted Police intervened that the situation was brought under control. In 1971, the situation escalated again, led, of all people, by the prison barber Bill Knight. The prison was overcrowded, conditions were poor, food was terrible, and frustration was running high. Ironically, it was a television that finally pushed things over the edge. When a TV set was about to be removed from a common room, the incident turned into one of the largest prison riots in Canadian history. For 4 days, chaos ruled. Guards were taken hostage and 2 inmates were killed by fellow prisoners. In the end, it was actually a prisoner who helped negotiate the release of the hostages and most likely prevented an even greater tragedy. For almost 180 years, Kingston Penitentiary was home to Canada's convicted criminals. Since its closure in 2013, the prison has been open to visitors. And by the end of the tour, people are quite relieved when the heavy iron door closes behind them in the right direction. Directly across the street stands the former home of the prison warden. Today, this building is also a museum and can be visited free of charge. It offers a look behind the scenes of prison administration and into 2 worlds separated by only a wall. Just a short walk away stands another impressive limestone building. And if you think a beautiful facade means a kinder story awaits inside, unfortunately, you would be wrong. This is the former prison for women. Between 1934 and 2000, it was Canada's only maximum security prison for women. Some of the country's most notorious female offenders were incarcerated here. At the same time, the institution repeatedly faced criticism for abuse, racial discrimination, and questionable practices. In 1994, the situation reached a breaking point. After a controversial intervention by a special team from the neighboring Kingston Penitentiary, including searches of female inmates by male officers, a national inquiry was launched under Judge Louise Arbon. Her report made it clear the system needed fundamental change. One thing many inmates of these institutions had in common: sleepless nights. No, not because of guilt, but because of the screams coming from the Rockwood Asylum. Rockwood opened in 1862 as an institution for people who were then classified as criminal insane. Everyone wore overalls with just one word written across the back: lunatic. Subtle was not exactly the goal. The so-called treatments often had little to do with healing. Lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and forced measures were primarily used as methods of control. Unmarked graves on the ground still remind visitors of this dark chapter in history. And then there are the stories surrounding Rockwood. Stories of voices in abandoned corridors, of footsteps behind doors that nobody has opened for years, and of a maintenance crew that was supposed to carry out renovation work but left much faster than planned and preferred to take on other projects afterwards. Whether you believe those stories or not, Rockwood is a place whose past is not easily forgotten. McBurney Park is now a green oasis in the heart of Kingston. At first glance, it seems calm, almost idyllic. But ask the locals about it, and you'll usually get a puzzled look before they reply, "Oh, you mean Skeleton Park." Back in the 19th century, this was a burial ground for people who didn't survive the journey from Europe. Record keeping was limited at the time, so many of the deceased were buried hastily and without their names ever being recorded. The cemetery was closed in 1864 and was eventually converted into a public park in the 1890s. A place that had once been a cemetery suddenly became a space for picnics, children playing, and everyday life. But every now and then, something surfaced from the ground that was never meant to be found. When children began discovering human bones while playing, the park earned a new name that has stuck ever since: Skeleton Park. And it has remained a quiet reminder of the past beneath what otherwise looks like an ordinary neighborhood park. And finally, one last place that was once shaped by the fear of another conflict. After the War of 1812, peace had officially been made with the United States, but the Canadians weren't entirely convinced the Americans could be trusted just yet. So in 1832, constructions began on Fort Henry, an additional military fortress built to protect the naval dockyards and the strategically important waterways. The fort served as an active military installation from 1836 to 1891. Although it was never attacked, it continued to play a role well into the 20th century, serving as a camp during both World Wars. Hier haben wir Pipi und Kakapupo gemacht. In the 1930s, Fort Henry was restored with the intention of turning it into a historic site. Then World War II broke out, and instead it was once again used as an internment camp for prisoners of war. Today, Fort Henry is a museum where the Fort Henry God brings history back to life with guided tours, military drills, battle demonstrations, and thunderous cannon firings. All very authentic, but thankfully without any real danger. The interpreters undergo several weeks of intensive training, and before long, you forgot that you're actually watching a historical reenactment. Ooh, what do we have here? A little secret door. Well, gonna go inside and have a look-see. Oh, it's the balcony. Nice. We thoroughly enjoyed visiting Fort Henry. You can easily spend several hours there. Immerse yourself in history, discover what life and military services were like in the 19th century, and even learn why the soldiers wore those famous red uniforms. All right, and that brings us to the end of our tour. I hope you had a little bit of fun, and maybe you have the desire to come yourself and look at all these places. Well, until then, have a great time, stay nice to each other, and see you then. Bye bye.